When the announcement was made that we were to enjoy new naira notes, many of us were ecstatic. Finally, something that will cause cash hoarders to relinquish the cash in their custody. We will fight crime with this new policy. Besides, it's about time we went cashless as a country. 64 million adults, that's 55% of Nigeria's adult population, are unbanked. Nigeria's broadband penetration is just 47.36%. This will force action to move us forward. What we saw next was unexpected. A scarcity of the new notes turned many Nigerians into criminal entrepreneurs, including banking institutions, as we will show you in our focus on the nation's capital. My guest on the program unpacks this whole situation. Are we ready to go digital? Are our financial institutions ready for this leap? Are industry regulators ready? Are Nigerians ready? We'll talk about it. And as we do every week, we have a rundown of major stories from Nigeria's presidency. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dateline Abuja. Hello and welcome to Dateline Abuja. I am Kayla Megwa. Let's begin with all the major stories from Nigeria's seat of power.
President Muhammadu Buhari has urged citizens to give him 7 days to resolve the cash crunch that has become a problem across the country, from the policy of the Central Bank of Nigeria to change high-value naira notes with new ones. President Buhari was addressing members of the Progressive Governors Forum who came to the presidential villa to seek solutions to the cash crunch, which they said was threatening the good records of the administration in transforming the economy. President Buhari is targeting 100 trillion naira in asset growth for the country in 10 years. The president indicated this when he officially launched the Ministry of Finance Incorporated MOFI, which was originally set in 1959 through an act of parliament as a custodian of the federal government's investments in various government-linked companies and government-owned enterprises. Ahead of the 2023 elections, President Buhari has reassured Nigerians that his cardinal commitment to ensuring that every Nigerian is able to exercise their franchise by participating in a free and fair election remains sacrosanct. President Buhari gave the assurance when he received in the audience the Secretary General of the World Customs Organization, Mr. Kunyo Mikuria, who is in Nigeria for the Global Conference on Fragile Borders. The need for an unbiased election umpire and judiciary in engendering trust among the Nigerian people for the nation's democratic process formed the crux of a speech given by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, at the 14th Leadership Awards, which was held in Abuja. At the ceremony, awards were presented to notable persons as well as public and private corporate entities for their hard work and innovation despite Nigeria's economic travails.
The political elite in Nigeria have a duty in the interest of the economic well-being of our citizens and, of course, in the overall interest of our people who we claim to represent, to ensure that elections and electoral dispute resolution processes are free, they're fair and credible.
The federal government has responded to allegations by Governor Nasir El-Rufai of Kaduna State that some elements in the presidential villa are working against the presidential candidates of the All Progressives Congress. Addressing State House correspondents at a briefing after the Federal Executive Council meeting chaired by President Buhari, the Minister of Information, Mr. Lai Mohammed, underpinned that the President has made clear that his administration would only focus on ensuring a free and credible election and not to favour or disfavour anyone. The Governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele, says subject to Section 20, subsection 3 of the CBN Act 2007, even after the old currencies have lost legal tender status, the CBN will continue to accept the old notes. The CBN governor stated this when he appeared before the House of Representatives Ad Hoc Committee, which is investigating the Apex Bank's cash swap policy. Nigeria has moved up 4 places from 154 to 150 out of 180 countries and territories in the latest ranking of a 2022 Corruption Perception Index released by Transparency International. According to the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, which aggregated data from 8 different courses, the latest ranking on the level of corruption in the public sector indicates that the CPI index for the country has remained consistently low in the last 10 years, while the lack of transparency in Nigeria's security sector has weakened the country.
Because of the corruption in the security sector, because of the fact that some people have compromised, people come with arms and ammunition into this country. How comes? Where are the custom? Where are the officials that all these dangerous weapons that are killing Nigerians? Nigerians will demand explanation of the role they play.
The United States of America believes that the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has the capacity to conduct free, fair and credible elections. The U.S. ambassador to Nigeria, Mary Beth Leonard, stated this at a multi-stakeholders dialogue on the 2023 elections organized by the National Orientation Agency in Abuja.
Welcome back. This week, in our focus on the nation's capital, we visited the Garki International Market, where small-scale transactions, cash transactions, are the order of the day. And then we visited a supermarket where digital transactions are the norm. And the experience in both areas are quite different, as you see in this report. Meanwhile, the extra charges from point-of-sale providers are explained, and we speak to vendors and customers on their experience with this scarcity of new money. On Wednesday, November the 23rd, 2022, President Muhammadu Buhari unveiled the redesigned 200, 500 and 1,000 naira notes by the Central Bank of Nigeria. Deadlines were given to the Nigerian people to return the old notes, first on the 31st of January 2023, and now a 10-day extension, making February the 10th, 2023, the official deadline, and an additional 7 days, wherein which the old notes can be returned to the Central Bank of Nigeria.
We have today sought and obtained Mr. President's approval for the following. 1. A 10-day extension of the deadline from January 31, 2023 to February 10, 2023 to allow for collection of more old notes legitimately held by Nigerians and achieve more success in cash swap in our rural areas, in our villages and communities, after which all old notes outside the CBN loses their legal tender status.
Visuals such as this one flooded social media following the announcement of the deadline. Nigerians were again plunged into a panic as the desperation to get rid of the old notes in their custody increased, while the scarcity of the new notes caused chaos, especially as many vendors in Nigeria strictly do cash transactions. At the Garki International Market, traders have mixed views on the situation.
If truly that's what it is, we will see a situation whereby Nigerians will suffer for the next 3 weeks. Immediately after the election, the new notes will be in circulation. That means we've gotten it right. Thank you to the present government. If truly that the new notes are in the hands of the politicians now and they're waiting for that day to use it, man, we are in big shit.
Some traders still don't have bank accounts.
This thing are selling to 200. If they tell somebody so you no get cash, you go do me transfer, no get account. How you go do?
For those who have bank accounts, poor network has made transactions impossible. I had to return these spices to the vendor after my bank app wouldn't pay due to poor network. We're unable to do it.
Me, I know people talking about this cash because they think of powers. It's not done the cash for many people. What is this my Oga talk? Say, if we cash them, we pay make 100,000, 150, but now even 10K can't to make. We can pay make up to that price bets. All not transfer.
Because of the situation of things in Nigeria, because of our network, because of the network failure, I don't know whether in future, maybe if everything have been correct, maybe it will suit us. But for now, we are not enjoying it.
It's granted our business like that. So it really affects us in so many ways. Because if some want to buy things now, they cannot buy. If you want even common guy to buy even 15 naira gari for cup can, and the cup is 100 naira, you cannot buy. So somebody wanted to buy the sword or like 200 naira. He said you should bring account number so that you can transfer. Just 200 naira. How do you see that one? Because they don't have cash.
Me, I'm okay with it. I don't have problem. You need to, all those people selling, you need to enlarge them. There's some people you want to buy bread with them, like this boy selling leather now. If you call him, need cash. He will not like transfer. He will tell you that it's a bank, it's having people bread, it's having people with PVN. Those people, you really need to educate them, enlarge them more. But to me, I don't have problem with it.
Today we were in the ATM for 3 hours, so we can't get money. So you understand? So let government do something about it. I know the cashless policy is good because it may reduce a rate of crime and something like that. It's good. But let them make an arrangement whereby people will not be suffering too much again.
Point of sale operators have been accused of exploiting the situation, charging in some cases as much as 1,000 naira for every 10,000 naira cash withdrawal. This man runs a point of sale business, and he explains why the charges have increased.
Instead of giving you that 5,000 once, they will split it into 5. So you'll be taking it 1,000 naira, and they are charging you either 35 naira or 45 naira. That's why the POS people increase their charges. Now, after charging you, when you do any transaction, the POS management or microfinance will still charge you.
On the other side of Abuja, at the Games Village axis, we came across this plaza. The plaza's manager explains that the scarcity of cash is actually good for their business, and they've seen an increase in income since the need to make more electronic transfers.
As predicted, its sales dropped, the cash sales dropped for a minute, but interestingly, the POS sales went up. We had a situation where we had the jump of over 100% in POS sales. So it's my opinion and my experience, based on data I have here, that the cashless policy seems to be working. It's a win-win situation. It's been my experience that people adapt, and it's not all bad. I think the policy in itself has no issue. Other things, maybe technology, may be a problem, but if it's the policy itself and the effects I can see from this point of sale that I see, it's beautiful. It's sustainable. It works. It's neater. It's safer, transferring cash here and there. So it's easier for us. It works for us.
The new money scarcity has brought out the worst in many Nigerians. On the 1st of February 2023, the ICPC released a statement announcing they had arrested a woman, Omoshein Esther, with the Twitter handle Lala, offering new naira notes for sale on social media. A few days before that, a statement from the spokesperson of the Department of State Services said it had intercepted bank officials among the syndicates who specialize in trading in the new currency notes around the country.
You will definitely do that.
Meanwhile, after many summons, the governor of Nigeria's central bank appears before the House of Representatives ad hoc committee on the CBN. The CBN governor explains that the scramble for the new notes is unnecessary, noting that old naira notes can always be returned to the central bank even after the money ceases to be legal tender.
Even after the old currency has lost its legal tender status, that we are mandated to collect those monies. And I stand with the House of Representatives on this. What does that mean? You would have lost its legal tender status, in which case we have moved on, but you have your money that you have not been able to send into the bank. We certainly will give you the opportunity to bring them back into the CBN and redeem it. Either you pay it in your bank account or you want to do exchange, we give you.
The chair of the committee responds to this new information.
The policy is a government policy being carried out by a component of Nigerian government. The institution here also is a component of the government, in fact an arm of government. So this is of course a welcome submission, it is a welcome answer, but unfortunately at a belated point. Only if you had communicated this to us much earlier, the crisis would not have come up at all.
Political or not, the redesign of the naira was done to check cash hoarding, corruption, kidnapping, and even terrorism. The situation has thrown up how unbanked many Nigerians are. Nigeria's below acceptable broadband penetration, which as of December of 2022 stands at 47.36%. And most importantly, the need for the network infrastructure of many banks to be re-examined. There are calls from different corners for sanctions to be placed on banks notorious for poor network. For many Nigerians, this critical area must be addressed as soon as possible, as a lack of cash will necessitate a total move to digital money transactions, as is seen in most parts of the world. My guest on the program is an economist and financial analyst, Mr. Paul Alaje. With him, we get fresh perspectives on this situation, what mistakes were made, how the Nigerian public should handle the situation, and most importantly, what financial institutions should be doing to fix their network infrastructure. Also, what financial and telecoms regulators should get ready to implement. Please watch this. Mr. Paul Alaje, welcome to Dateline Abuja.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Someone saw me at Garki Market and said, happy cashless policy. And the dimensions to this particular situation is something that has to be unbundled for a lot of people to understand. Let's talk a bit about this situation, because the cashless policy has been in existence for a very long time. What's happened now is a redesign of the naira, which the government explained to us is supposed to help curb corruption, stop terrorism, fight crime, basically, change the nomenclature that has been beneficial to crime and criminality. But with the elections coming up, some people think this has a political dimension. Talk to us a bit about this redesign of the naira. Why was it so important to do so right now, and its timing?
A lot of reasons why the redesign is happening now. A lot of good things coming up with it, and a lot of concerns coming up with this redesign. The Central Bank of Nigeria has announced several months ago, about 3 months ago, that it was ready for Nigeria to redesign the high denomination currency, talking about 200, 500, and 1,000 naira notes. Few days after that, it was launched in the villa at the instance of President Buhari. And after the currency was launched, one would expect that it would be readily available with the commercial bank, but we had to wait for almost a month before we start seeing traces of this money. And as I talk to you, I've not seen more than 200 naira note 2 pieces and 500 naira note just
I haven't seen the 1,000.
And the 1,000 I've seen.
I've seen it on TV.
So I've seen physical 1,000 naira notes. So we decided, 2 months into the announcement, people were complaining they don't have the note. They hope Central Bank would extend. Then we started going from state to state to know what has been the impact and the penetration of this money. And I can tell you, up until last week, larger percentage of transaction, exchange of money, were still in the old notes. And I was not particularly surprised when Central Bank said it was going to give 10 days for the currency to remain a legal tender. And after 10 days, it might now give maybe extra 7 days for people to return such to the bank, but it won't be a legal tender. You can keep to the bank, which now goes to the Central Bank, for Central Bank to to warehouse such old currency and replace it with new currency. Central Bank say about over 1.9 trillion naira has been returned, old currency, out of over 2 trillion is expecting. The question is, when you have collected 1.9 trillion, how much did you give back to people in exchange? Certainly not up to 1.9 trillion. That is why you are seeing that the demand side continue to grow while supply side continue to decrease. So that will lead to scarcity. When it leads to scarcity, what we used to see parallel market, just the same thing you are seeing with fuel. Some people will turn it to a market of some sort where they will ask people to pay XYZ. So you saw with POS, for you to collect 10,000 naira, you have to give 2,000 naira. So it became something that trended on the online,
we
especially on
Twitter. Some POS operators who told us that no, we have to, because the charges on us also increased.
So if the charges have increased, who pays at the end of the day? The Nigerian people, the consumers.
The CBN felt this policy was going to be, because we did hear Mr. Emefiele explain this policy. I remember before this whole thing, before these things started happening, I remember listening to him and thinking, this is how it is supposed to be done. We're supposed to move away from all this cash. How can people be burying cash in sockaways? How can people be having cash that is rotting in places, So all of this felt like such a good idea, but are we ready as a country, Mr. Alaje?
Of course we are not ready. You see, the Central Bank...
When I'm talking about readiness, I'm not just talking about the people, because...
technology, tools, systems, structures.
Yes, the infrastructure, the banking infrastructure, broadband penetration.
The truth is that we are not ready. You see, what the Central Bank governor was looking at is the paradise, the other side which is, if these were not there, corruption will be minimal. The cost of currency, because it comes with a lot of cost to print those money, will significantly reduce. You know, central bank is looking at a lot of things. We'll be able to manage, tame inflation, keep inflation to single digits, at worst about 12%. Those are the things he's looking at. But what central bank has not considered is, how do we get there? It is desirable to get to other side, but how do you get there? That's what central bank have not tested. If I were a central bank governor, I would not make this a general thing. I would limit it first to FCT and Lagos and see how it will play out in those two cities. And if you could remember, when the cashless policy was introduced, it was not introduced to entire country. It was introduced to few states. From few states, we kept expanding and expanding to other states and see how the economic reality could apply. And I think more importantly, you know, I have started to believe that this may have some element of political undertone, because we want economists around the country, virtually all of us, we're all saying the same thing, that you need to think very deeply before you implement this policy, because you want to alter the way of life of a people. You want to alter the way of life of a retiree. You are altering the way of life of people who don't have access to online banking, who don't even have an app, who have issues with their ATMs, who bank in their area. They may not be effective. And these are realities of what we've seen. Now, Mr. Emefiele and the members of Monetary Policy Committee and those that work in Central Bank, they can enjoy their ACs, but are they going to see the grassroots, you know, and how banks are even treating their customers? You can look at customer service report for various banks. Most Nigerian banks perform, you know, very woefully when it comes to how they treat their customers.
Let's actually even talk about that, you know, because we do have to round up. But we're talking about banking infrastructure, and I'm not talking about buildings.
Yes.
Okay, I'm talking about your apps. I'm talking about your digital platforms.
Yes.
Many people have said, look, it's time for the regulators of that industry to actually now start to sanction banks that are notorious for poor network, because you cannot kill us on both sides. You cannot not have cash, and then the app that is supposed to help me to transfer money doesn't work. So if we're going through that in Abuja, imagine what people are going through elsewhere around the country. Should the industry regulators for the banking sector actually start to sanction these financial institutions who are not providing the necessary service that is being paid for?
Well, I think the central bank needs to be involved, but rather than central bank getting involved, central bank introduced e-naira as an alternative, that if you cannot use this, then you can use e-naira. The question is, how many Nigerians have downloaded e-naira? How many Nigerians interact with central bank officials? If they have concerns, how many people are that patient to find out information? Meanwhile, this is a measure of their blood. They have access to different commercial banks because they've related with them over time. In some areas, the best, what looks like financial presence to them is POS. What will they be telling the POS operator? That is why I think that, yes, it's important for us to see how we can improve the quality of our economy, reduce cash transaction, and so on and so forth. But to take cash transaction from what it was to zero, it will hurt the economy, and the economy may return to a recession. Even if it doesn't return to a recession by third quarter or fourth quarter, you would have seen significant drop from these 3% that we have to definitely around 2 or 1% GDP growth rate. And don't ask me why. We were having issues with transfer. The platform was not sufficient to carry the pressure. How much more? When you now restrict all of us to that platform, then we have a bigger thing to deal with.
Well, we do have to stop there, but thank you very much, Mr. Paul Alaje, for being with us on Dateline Abuja, and good luck with all that you have ahead of you.
Thank you so very much for having me.
Thanks to my guest and to everyone who spoke to us today on the program. It truly has been a disappointing few weeks across board, from the Nigerian people to banking institutions and network providers. My network provider has been working well this past few weeks, but for some reason, my banking app just won't work. We all see where the fault lines are, and the truth is, we can fix this with the right political will and a collective determination. Many countries around the world do not use cash for anything. In fact, the more cash you have on you in many parts of the world, the more suspicious you look, because criminal elements do transactions in cash. Nigeria wants to go cashless because it's better, it is safer, and it helps fight all kinds of crimes because now the transactions can be traced. The network infrastructure, however, must be in place to ensure that this is done properly. That's Dateline Abuja this week. Please let us know the happenings in your neighborhood using the social media handles showing right now on your screen. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Kayla Megwa. See you next time.